Hello guys, and it's today with Genius File Studio with another video. Today this video will be about our moons and dwarf planets. Last week we talked about planets. We talked about a lot of celestial objects in our solar system, and there are a lot of celestial objects in our solar system. If you look at my other video about planets, you have seen that we already talked about planets. But now we're going to be looking into something more complex and moving into dwarf planets and moons. So today we'll be talking about that. And before we start, please subscribe and press the like button and the bell icon so you can get more videos from Genius File Studio. First, we'll be talking about moons. Moons is what they're satellites, natural satellites that orbit our solar system, or not our solar system, excuse me, orbit around our planets that orbit around the solar system. So today we'll be talking, there are more than 200 to 300 moons in our solar system, more than 300 moons. So that's why we'll only be talking about the major and more important moons in our solar system. So we'll only be talking about 5 of them. We'll be talking about Ganymede, Titan, Io, our moon, and Europa. So first we'll be talking about Ganymede. Ganymede is one of the 4 Galilean moons. Galilean moons are the 4 moons that were discovered by the famous astronomer Galileo. And they're named the 4 Galilean moons because these were the 4 moons ever studied by Galileo. So that's why he named them Jupiter 1, Jupiter 2, Jupiter 3, and Jupiter 4. So Ganymede, before it was called Ganymede, was called Jupiter 2. Ganymede is famous for its size and its density. Although it is only 45% the size as Mercury, 45% the size of Mercury, it is more dense. It has more mass than Mercury. This is because its atoms are more compact and are more dense. Ganymede is also famous because it's the 9th biggest object studied by scientists in our solar system, and because there are already 8 planets in our solar system, it makes it the biggest moon in our solar system. Biggest moon. So that's a fun fact about Ganymede, and that's pretty much it about that. Next, we'll be talking about Titan. Titan is named after the 12 gods that were the generation right before the Greek gods, like Zeus and Poseidon. So they were like the parents, uncles, and aunts of the Olympian gods. So that's what they were called, Titans. Titan is the 10th biggest planet, or not the 10th biggest planet, the 10th biggest object in our solar system, and it is believed that humans can make a settlement on it, but with some difficulty because Titan has a really thick atmosphere, about as thick as our Earth's atmosphere, so it will protect it from the sun's harsh radiation, and also it has some liquids which, although are not H2O, they can be filtered and used for drinking. It also has some material that can be used to build settlements. So that's why Titan is believed to be able to support life, and we're not exactly sure. Now we're going to be talking about Io. Io is mainly famous for its colors. Its colors are really famous because it has a lot of sulfuric acid in its soil, so this um makes it have this yellowish soil and also some other colors. So that's why it has like this yellowish look that makes it really, really special. Also has some iron look in it, some red tinge in it. So that's what also makes it pretty really famous. It was named after the Zeus's favorite maiden, and that is pretty much it about Io. Next we'll be talking about our moon. Our moon is made, if you read my article in the section about how our Earth was made, you will learn how the moon was made, but I'll just say it. Our moon was made by a collision between our Earth, our early Earth, which was another planet for dangerous because it was full of lava, acid rain. It was destructive like a Venus. And then with the Earth's collision with the Mars-sized planet Theia, nothing really happened to Earth, but Theia got crushed into dust and asteroids, which later became our moon. So that's why our moon is how it is right now. And this dark rock over here does not reflect as much light as the white rock. So that's why our moon has different types of visible light radiation in it. Now we'll be talking about Europa. Europa is also a really colorful planet, so that's a special fact about that. And Europa is also the Europa is also has many ice caps. So in the north and south of its the north and south pole. So it has this. So this makes it not being able to support life because it's a moon, doesn't have an atmosphere, but it does have watery ice caps. It has different elements in the soil like Io, so that's why it has some different color changes. And finally, we'll be talking about in Enceladus. Enceladus is the brightest brightest moon in Saturn, and the brightest moon in Saturn because its whole surface is just ice. It's just ice. So that's why it reflects a lot of light and is really bright. It also has some water underneath the ice, so scientists believe that not there will be unicellular organisms in that freezing cold water, but we're not exactly sure if it's real or not. So that's pretty much it about some of the most famous moons in our solar system. And now we'll be talking about dwarf planets. There are a lot of different types of there are a lot of different dwarf planets in our solar system, but they're not as famous as the other dwarf planets. So we're gonna not focus on the not so famous ones. Like for example, we're not gonna focus on this one, not on this one, not on this one, and not on this one, and not on this one. But we'll be focusing on 6 dwarf planets. We'll be focusing on um, Pluto. We'll be focusing on Eris. We'll be focusing on Haumea. Be focusing on Makemake. We'll be focusing on Sedna, and we'll be focusing on Ceres. So we're going to be focusing on these 5 planets, 6 planets. I mean, excuse me. So first, we'll be talking about Pluto. Pluto. Actually, before we start, all of these 6 planets over here, one thing you should know about them because all of them except Ceres, all the rest of the other planets are mainly are have a lot of ice on it. Either they're H2O water ice, or there could be other types of ice, like for example ethane ice, um nitrogen ice, and different types of ices because they're so far away and all the liquids freeze. So I said there are different ice caps and ice on all of them except Ceres because Ceres is in the asteroid belt, so it's not as cold there as the Kuiper belt. First, we'll be talking about Pluto. Pluto used to be thought as a 9th planet before the term dwarf planets came out, but after the term dwarf planets came out, which is a planet but is really really small and doesn't have so much of like such a gravitational pull and interactions with other celestial objects around it, and it's really far away and it's mixed up with the other astronomical waste, like for example asteroids and comets. So that's the term of dwarf planets. And after that term came out, Pluto was put into that category. Pluto is um Pluto is wait a second, let me find that for a second. Pluto is named after the Greek god of death or Hades. It is compared to the planet, it doesn't have such a big influence on the other comets and asteroids around it. That's why it is a dwarf planet. It has many moons, but it's not as important they're not as important and not as big as Pluto. So that's why we won't be exactly talking about its moons, and has lots of ice and water. It releases a lot of icy geysers into the air. So that's one thing which is a good fun fact about Pluto. Next, we'll be talking about Ares. Ares is um Ares is named after the Greek goddess of strife and discord. Ares is also a dwarf planet in the Kuiper belt. Another thing is that all the dwarf planets are in the Kuiper belt except Ceres, and that's why those planets have ice. It has lots and lots of ice on it because of its distance, like how I told you. Um, it mainly consists of nitrogen ice, methane ice, and ethane ice, and this is why all the Kuiper belt dwarf planets have ice on it. Then we'll be talking about Hayume. Hayume is named after the Hawaiian goddess of childbirth. It its two moons are named after the goddess's children, Hayaki and Namaka. A fascinating part of Hayume is its shape, if you realize that. Hayume's shape is like a football because its rotational speed is so fast that the shape of it has moved into a not so knowable shape. So that's why it's not like a normal spheric shape you can see in a normal planets and dwarf planets. Then we'll be talking about Meke Meke. Meke Meke is named after the dwarf planet. It doesn't have a classical name. It orbits around. It has a satellite, but it doesn't have a classical name because it doesn't have. It's not so famous and nothing really special about it. It's roughly two-thirds the size of Pluto, and Meke is approximately 40. It's approximately 40 kettle. That's 40 kettle degrees, or negative 230 degrees. So that's why it was named after the Easter Bunny, but was shortly because it was discovered shortly before Easter. So that's why it was first named Easter Bunny. But then it was later named Meke Meke, which is the god of humanity and fertility, based on the Rapanai, which are the natives who lived on Easter Island. So that's pretty much about Meke Meke. Then we'll be talking about Ceres. Ceres is a dwarf planet which orbits in the asteroid belt. It's the biggest object which in the asteroid belt. It's mainly made of rock and asteroids and named after the Roman god of agriculture and motherhood. Due to its mass and influence over the other asteroids and celestial objects in the asteroid belt. Finally, we'll be talking about Sedna. Sedna is named after the native Indian goddess of the sea. Sedna is it's a really wonderful planet that is worth studying. Sedna's orbit is 3 times the orbit of Neptune. So its orbit goes really, really, really far out into the Oort cloud and circulates around back. So it works mostly on the slingshot theory by astronomers. So if this were Neptune's orbit and this were the sun, actually if this were the sun, this is the Oort cloud, and then this is Neptune's orbit right here. Sedna's orbit would be right like that, something like that, and then Pluto's orbit's just like this. So the Sedna's orbit's really long and huge, and it is mainly full of ice. and a lot of iron oxide inside it. So that's why it has this reddish tinnish color. It's not such a big, it's not such a big dwarf planet as well. So that's pretty much it about moons and dwarf planets. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys see my other videos. Please subscribe and bye bye.